Riverside Nashville's Impact the City Ministry presents Safe Space, a platform for leaders to keep it real and bring us into their personal stories of overcoming. This is an opportunity to remind ourselves that our trials are just as important as our triumphs because they both lead to our testimony. And now your host, Minister Damaris Miller.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Safe Space. I am your host, Minister Damaris Miller, the young adult minister here at the Riverside Chapel. Listen, guys, I am so excited. I have one of my good best friends on the episode with us today, and I believe that what he's going to share will bring hope, will bring healing to everyone who listens. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for life, health, and strength. God, today we praise you and thank you for the ability to tell our testimony. God, today utilize Safe Space in a way that you have never used it before. Allow it to bring true healing and hope to everyone who listens. This is my prayer in the mighty name of Jesus. That all who believe say amen, amen, and amen. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Jason O'Rourke, Chaplain Jason O'Rourke. Welcome to the Safe Space, brother. How are you doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I have no complaints. I'm happy to see you again, man. It's been too long.
It's been too long, man. It's been too long. I feel like I've changed. I've grown. The Lord enlarged my territory and my weight, and you still look the same.
Well, I look the same from the neck up. I have a keg from the chest down.
Okay. Well, brother, man, I appreciate the sacrifice. I appreciate you coming on Safe Space to tell your story. You have a dynamic story that I can't wait to hear. But before we talk about your story, everybody knows that we start our Safe Space off with an icebreaker. One has to go. One has to go. Are you ready? All right, let's go. All right. Because of who you are, one has to go. One military branch has to go. I mean, it cannot be here anymore. One military branch has to go. We cannot have it. It cannot be a part of our armed forces. That's going to be the Army, the Marines, Coast Guard, or Air Force. One has to go, and you have to tell us why one of these armed forces, military forces, has to go. Army.
Not possible.
Coast Guard or Air Force. You have to pick one, Jason. Thank you. This is my icebreaker. You have to answer this.
Listen, I'm answering it, and I'm telling you that is not correct. I can't do that.
Jason, you have to answer this.
Listen, I can't.
Okay,
listen, if you move one, you lose a valuable asset and an entire system that is being covered by that one. If you look, I can't.
Just if you could, which one would you choose?
It's not a matter of could. Why would I want to know?
Jason, you have to go along with this icebreaker.
This is crazy.
And why? One of them has to go. Why? Please.
No. Maybe you know what? If one of them has to go.
Has to go.
Okay, so if one of them has to go, never said where they're going, and that's good. Never said where they're going. One of them has to go. The first people that I would send into any, environment is I would bomb the mess out of everybody. Let's in the Air Force first. They go and bomb everybody, and then you send the ground forces. That's how you work that. They go, and then they come back, and then we send some other people. That's how you do that.
All right. Since you're going to answer it that way. All right. Next icebreaker. One has to go. One book of the Bible has to go. It just can't be in the Bible anymore. It just can't be there, And so I'm going to say Revelation.
For me, I'd probably say one of the minor prophets.
Danielle, let me choose. This is my icebreaker, Jay. You can't tell me. Revelation, Daniel, Genesis, or the Gospels. One of those has to go.
Oh, so those are the four options.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
There you go. It's my icebreaker. Okay. It's my icebreaker.
It can't be Genesis. That's the book of beginnings. It can't be the Gospel. That's where you're right. So you're brought down to one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least theoretically, I would probably err on the side of revelation.
And why?
And the reason why is because it is from Daniel, at least in my estimation, my understanding, that we move forward and we get the whole timeline. Revelation starts you at a particular point in time and takes you forward, but Daniel starts you from his time and tells you how it's going to end without too much description. But you get enough of that end time description in the Gospels. Like Jesus says, listen, the Son of Man is going to come like this, and the stars are going to fall on the sun in Matthew 24, Luke 17. So there's enough of revelation in Matthew or the Gospels for me to be okay.
I love it. I love it. All right. One of these you can never do again. One of these you can never do again. You can never talk. You can never write, or you can never read. One of these you can never do again. One has to go, and why?
I would probably go with writing because we type now.
This guy.
But honestly, I love reading. I love reading, and so and I communicate. You know, we are a verbal communication people. I want my family to be able to hear me say that I love them. Even though I can't sing, I enjoy worship. I enjoy singing with the group. Um, and you know, if I read it and I can say it, they have apps like Dragon Speak that will translate what you say to words. So I'm good.
All right. All right. Well, Jason, man, I appreciate you, man, once again, taking some time out of your day. We appreciate your honesty. And at this time, we're going to transition into your safe space. It's your time to share.
Now, yes, thank you. And just FY, you know how we do. Please feel free to interject because we do better dialogue than we do monologue.
Definitely.
So I'm Jason O'Rourke. I'm the son of William and Tosca. My mother, Tosca Stuckey, now Stuckey. My father's name is William O'Rourke Jr. I have one brother by blood, and that is uh, Philip. Forgot his name for a moment. And so we were born into an Adventist family. We were a very conservative family, um, very conservative. Oh man, really, really conservative. My dad thought we were strict vegans. My mom tricked him and put eggs in the bread. She had to trick him. Um, but yeah, so like Damaris, you'll laugh at this. Like we couldn't go swimming because you know how people like to flirt in the church, right? And so, they used to go swimming and, everybody go swimming. And then the old dudes in the church used to flirt with my mom. So my dad was like, we ain't going swimming. No more swimming. So if he wanted us to go swimming, then we got up in the morning and we lived in Ohio. So we went to the reservoir at 5 in the morning where nobody could see us in our bathing suits, and it was cold. So we're out there like catching pneumonia, but we're in the water thinking it's the greatest thing, but we're freezing,
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, this is dumb, so, but it was, because that's where my parents came in. They came in on the conservative side. They wanted to make sure they, long story, which is a long story. And I could animate about my family, but I got molested at age 6 by a member by a church member, um, and that was problematic. So that there's two things that happen simultaneously. There's the activation of sexuality too early, and then there is the shame of the experience. And so you go back and forth between the activation and the shame. Um, and I didn't tell my mother for like 3 years. I didn't tell my family for like 3 years, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. I didn't tell anybody for 3 years. Yeah, it was, at least it felt like 3 years. And now 3 years can be like, for a 6-year-old, that could be like 3 months. So go figure. But we but that affected me. Now, mind you, I have a family of, previous, not current, but people used to be significant alcoholics on one side. There was a significant alcoholic on another side. Um, there was, for lack of a better word, there was some molestation on one side of my, ancestral family. So there's a lot of brokenness that comes in there, and then there's like, porn addiction and all these other things. And so, I remember we found in one of my grandfather's houses, we found porn in his room. It was all the cousins, all 5 of us, all 5 of the little kids. That's the room they told us to go play in, but that's the room he put his porn underneath the bed. And it's like, well, now, you know what I'm saying? It just, stuff could have got real weird there. Praise God, it didn't, but it could have. So there's a lot of overexposure to things that I never should have been exposed to, ever. And that started me down a very bizarre path. So my parents get divorced at when I was 12. Get divorced when I was 12, and my mom starts dating another gentleman. Now my mom got divorced because she got tired of my father's struggles. Mm. And now hear me well. I'm trying to tell my story, and not tell the rest of my family's story.
Yeah, respect that.
Right. So, she got divorced, married this gentleman, and my father left because it was too hard for him to be in the same city and know that they were still, we were around. It was too hard. Well, this gentleman over here had he was a whole different kind of man. Mm-hmm. And after some years of being with him, my junior year in high school, he beat my mom pretty bad. He beat her pretty bad. And we left. Mind you now, all this other shame and activation is still happening in the background with me.
Yeah.
So, he beat her pretty bad. We left. We moved to the town with my grandparents. And she went back. He called her, and she's being a good-natured, good, open-hearted woman. She went back, and he did it again. And then, they kind of severed full connection after that. But those were some of the traumas that we endured. I was angry all my life. From the time I got molested, I was angry. I was always high energy, but I got angry real quick. And when we were with him, I didn't really communicate my emotions. I didn't, because I was trying to be strong, because my dad was gone. So I'm trying to be the tough guy. I'm in the middle of puberty, right? And I remember one day I was driving in the car with my mom. I just broke down crying. Just broke down crying in the car. She didn't know what happened. I just had a meltdown, crying in the car. I told her I was just trying to protect her and was trying to be strong, and it was hard. And she, I remember one day she told me, she said, "Jason, you can't," because I used to sleep in front of the television. I would sleep on the floor in front of the TV. And she came out after they had one of their arguments, while she was still with the guy. She says, "You can't take care of me. You got to live your life." And at that point, I kind of checked out. And it was like, you know what? Bump everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom was trying to protect me from making me be the crying shoulder. That's one thing my mom never did, was she never tried to defend mistakes. She never came up with excuses. She never did. So when she and this gentleman broke up, we moved to the next city, and all I did was play football. Like, I used to do when I was 12, I was doing 500 push-ups a night.
Wow.
Like 500 push-ups a night, 40 pull-ups a day, because pull-ups are always harder than push-ups. Push-ups are easy. Yeah. I couldn't talk. Mars, I couldn't talk. I wasn't a communicator. I was strong, and that was it. I was strong because I wanted to be strong enough to defend my mom, which I couldn't. And I wanted to be strong enough so that nobody would ever hurt me again. So I couldn't communicate. I remember one day I picked up my brother. He had a smart mouth. My little brother is just a smart aleck. Like, I don't do well with smart alecks. I don't respond quickly. I don't. But I picked him up by his neck and just held him there. What my mom was like, "Your brother's going to hurt you one day if you don't stop." So I move on, and I get into football, and I'm I'm bench pressing 300 and squatting and deadlifting 5, like I'm just a little midget behemoth.
Yeah.
And we, meanwhile, during this entire time, I developed a porn problem. We found grandpa's. I got molested. Now I'm angry. I don't communicate. All this transition happens in my home, and I developed a porn problem. I got sexually active around 16. Still trying to be a good Adventist kid. Still trying.
Mm.
Trying. Went to public school. Had been to undergrad, all my grade school up through like 8th grade. Adventist private school. My parents got divorced. Here I go to public school. I don't know these kids from nobody.
Wow.
Only thing I was good with these kids was football. That's the only thing I knew them from, because I played Pee Wee football for them. And they didn't know where I came from. I came from a private school. They're like, this guy's stupid strong for no reason.
Mm.
And they all knew that I played angry.
Mm.
I didn't know that I played angry. They knew it. So this is all they used to tell me. They used to say, Jason, go get the quarterback. I couldn't listen. This is how I didn't understand football. DeMaris, I never played football before.
Yeah.
I didn't understand football. But all I knew was I can go hit that guy. So she said, line up right here, hike, hit the guy with the ball. That's what I did.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow.
So I got senior year in high school. I got senior year? Yeah, senior year in high school. I got busted doing two things: stealing comic books and oh wait, we had stolen comic books. That summer we had gone around and done vandalism. Right? And then my mom, I told my mom found out I told her I was smoking weed. And that was the last straw for her. So I had family members that had significant addictions that they got into, and records that they developed because they did drugs. I was going down that path of aimlessness, you know. So she said, that's it. You're joining the military. Go live with your father. So literally, football season ended on a Friday.
Mm.
I was on the bus down to Louisiana the next week. And I remember she put me on that bus and she walked away. And it was the strongest thing she ever did, because she didn't turn back to look, because she didn't want me to see her cry. I was on the bus. I had never taken a bus before by myself. I was on the bus. Anything could have happened between Ohio and Louisiana. Anything could have happened. I was on the bus to Louisiana with my stuff. And, I get down there and I'm angry. So I'm still dealing with this anger thing. So I finally joined the Army. Still angry, still addicted.
Yeah.
I joined the Rangers. I joined the Rangers because I didn't want to go to Korea. And the Rangers were in Georgia. I didn't want to go to Korea. So I was like, I'm staying on the continent. I'd never been that far from my mom. I'm like, I'm not going overseas. I joined the Rangers, which excellent unit of the military, and a lot of angry people. And the amount of porn floating around that place was ridiculous. Like, everybody had their own arsenal of porn. I didn't need to have it. Everybody else had it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so in my military time, I did a whole lot of, a lot of mistakes I made, relationally, promiscuity. And I don't want to use that word. Just sleeping around. Promiscuity, that's really somebody trying to sound really fancy. Sleeping around, porn addiction out of control. Even when I got to Germany, I mean, at one point in time, I was, messing around with the Americans, but I got invited to preach to the Germans. And after a while, it switched. So then next, I'm talking to my American friends about the Bible, and I started messing around with the Germans. I mean, it was just, you cannot live two lives like that. Okay. And so I left active duty 2001, still struggling, still struggling. And I went to go to school at Wright State University. And I lived with my dad. And I hadn't lived with my dad since I was a senior in high school. And I could be disrespectful to my dad. I didn't respect him. I could be mean to him, very brutal in my verbiage. And I was just coming off the military. After I worked there, I worked at a private school for at-risk youth. Then I went back to Wright State. Then I ended up getting the call to Oakwood. And I knew as soon as I visited the place, I was with my friend, Leslie Henry. He said, come on, just go with me. I was dating a mutual friend of ours at the time. And he said, come go with me down here. Now, mind you, I'm still struggling with anger and a porn addiction.
Yeah.
And sleeping around. but I've been asked since I've been back to preach. So I go down with him just to Naps. And I couldn't stay in Naps when I got there, but Naps was the thing that reminded me of my childhood. They sang all the songs I sang when I was a little boy. And I was like, this is great. I got in the car, headed back with him, and I was like, oh, crap. I knew it. I knew it. So I finished up my school, dropped out. I said, I'm going to Oakwood. I get to Oakwood. I get cleared in 2 days. That's unheard of. The job at Peterson Hall underneath Dean Smith, unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the oldest night dean in the history of night deans. You know,
we had some good talks during that nighttime. I was there with you.
We did, and y'all caught the rough side because I had just got back from Kosovo.
Yeah.
So I wasn't right, and I knew it. I knew I wasn't right. I just didn't know how not right I was. You know, and so a lot of us grew up together at Oakwood.
Yeah,
that was our growing up time. You know, we got a set for some of us older guys. We got a second childhood in it.
For sure.
Second college years. My college years were spent in the Rangers. You know, and so I was determined to at least not make the same mistakes there that I made. Over there, you know, in the Rangers. You know, so
it's interesting, Jay. I didn't know that you had just came back. I remember when we met, we were both RAs at that time, and it was that was my only way I could clear. That was my second go around to Oakwood at that time, and I was an RA as well, man. But I never knew that you were just, you know, I didn't know. I remember one day we were walking through Peterson Hall, and I passed you, and you said, "How you doing?" And I said, "My grandmother just passed away." He said, "That's good to hear." He kept on walking. And I said, this guy, did he just, I couldn't believe it. And you didn't, I mean, it was just, you know, and I felt like you heard me. Maybe you did it. Maybe you just, you know, you expect the response to be, I'm doing pretty good. Well, that's good to hear. Or I'm thinking, I don't know now when I'm thinking about you and hearing some of the history, you know, is that's kind of how you are, you know, where you're straight to the point, man. And now that I hear your background, you know, it it makes a little bit more sense to who you are, even from our conversations to 4 or 5 in the morning, the mentorship that we've done with the younger theology majors. It makes sense of how passionate you were on different subjects based off of your history. What made you choose theology, though, when you went to Oakwood?
I knew when I left Germany that I was going to do something. I knew in Germany, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. But when I got out of Germany, I went to my dad's house because I didn't want to have anything to do with Adventist. I didn't want to have anything to do with Adventist church, nothing. You know, in terms of the schooling, I didn't want it. And so I was studying religion and philosophy at Wright State. And I was doing well. I was fine. I'd done well. You know, I did 2 years there. I got deployed to Kosovo. And it's like, okay, well, go to Kosovo. And I came back, and when I got there, I was like, okay, well, they don't have religion and philosophy at Oakwood, but I'm going to do theology. It just made sense. I still didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea what I was going to be. You know, when they came to interview us, you know, the conference presidents came to interview us. I did a horrible interview, terrible, because it felt like everybody was kissing up, and I was trained to not kiss up. I'm not going to kiss up. That's not what I do. I'm not going to make you feel good about being conference president. I can do this, and this. I don't even like you over there in that position. How about that? I don't want to talk to you. Tell me where you want me to do and get out of my face. Like I'm not there. You know, that's not where I was. So I had a horrible experience, you know, when I interviewed with the conference presidents. Terrible. Wow. And then the old man Patterson came to interview students for possibility in chaplaincy from Florida. And Josiah Harry was down there at the time. I interviewed old man Patterson, and I told him the worst story ever. It was the worst historical narrative ever. You know, it was more graphic than what I told you. And he said, you know, you might want to consider chaplaincy. And hey, who was that lady? Not Miss Vaughn, the other one. Her last name Green, I think. Green in the theology department.
Yeah, Miss Green.
Miss Green. She told me, wait. her name is not Green anymore. She's married to the gentleman Scott, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Take a
her name
picture.
is Miss Scott.
Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
Miss
Yeah.
Scott.
Yep.
And Gretchen.
Gretchen.
Her name is
There you
Gretchen.
go. Yep.
She said, you need to apply for chaplaincy. And I said, okay. So I went to interview with this guy. And then Josiah Harry found out that I was coming down to interview in Florida. And he called me and he gave me some pointers on how to do. Well, I told him, I said, man, I'm not even going to be able to get down there. I don't have money for a flight. I can't even pay the application fee. He said, don't worry about it. He sent me the ticket.
Wow.
And he paid my application fee. And then he gave me the receipt so I could give it to Florida Conference so they could reimburse me.
Wow.
So I went down there. And I gave them the horrible story. Terrible story. And everybody in the room except one did not want to accept me. Everybody in the room except one did not want to accept me. Wow. Right? The one just happened to be the CEO who had done prior military service as a doctor. And he heard everybody else's story and he said, we're taking him.
Wow.
And the supervisor, my educator, my chaplain educator said, you know, I'll train him. This can either go really well or really bad.
Yeah.
And that is how I got to be a chaplain, because one person gave me some grace.
Wow. Now
I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah. Were you still dealing with the anger? Still dealing with the porn addiction at that time?
Absolutely. And so chaplaincy began to give me tools to recognize. It didn't clear up everything, but it gave me some tools, because the emotional tools that I gained in chaplaincy, I didn't have before. And it gave me language to express some of the emotions that I had held bottled up for a while. So I had to go, for the first year of being a chaplain, this 2009, 2010, I had to go to 4 different counselings concurrently for a year.
Wow. I
had my personal counseling. I had one-on-one counseling with my supervisor. I had group counseling, right? And I had group stuff with CPE. And I had one-on-one with the director.
Wow.
I had 4 different ones I had to go to, and it was mandated. You will do these or you will not be in this program. And I went to every one.
Yeah.
And then the following year, I went to Andrews, and that's where I met my wife. Now, that was interesting because my brother was, I'm not going to tell his story. My brother was getting care at another location, right? And so my emphasis was solely on my brother, right? And so when I meet my wife, I'm not interested in I'm not even paying her any attention because my brother had come up to visit me, right? So I'm all about him. But my wife knew who I was for her when she saw me, because she had prayed about it. But she didn't approach me for 3 months. She's like, I'm not approaching him because he's crazy. So finally, I preached a sermon on Hosea, and you know Hosea. I mean, it's
yeah.
So I preached the story on Hosea, and I went home that night and I knelt next to my bed. It was funny because I'm not tall, I'm not tall. I'm vertically challenged. And so I didn't have a really big bed because I didn't have a lot of money. So I had gone to a furniture store, to the kids section, and got one of them couches that fold down. Yeah. And I slept diagonally on it so I wouldn't be hanging off the bed, right?
Yeah.
And I knelt next to that little itty bitty bed in my room, said, Lord, I think I've gone about as far as I can go by myself. I've got blind spots. I've got weaknesses that I can't even see anymore because I'm used to them. And I literally met my wife the next day at a potluck. And so we were going to the social that night, and I was dropping her off at her house because she had to go meet her friends. And we all went this way. And I said, well, I'll drop you off at your house. I still wasn't thinking about her. We were just going to the thing. When I dropped her off after the social, the voice in my head said, this one's different. Don't mess this up. And I was like, okay. And so we got married the next year in 2011, September 9th. Yeah. And our wedding was December the 30th of 2011. And so next year, 2021, will make 10 years. And I'll tell you that healing, true healing, began for me when I was married, because let me tell you, you experience love and grace differently when you know you're wrong and the person standing across from you knows you're wrong. And we both know that they're justified in walking out, and they don't.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've experienced grace and love.
Yeah.
And it was then that I was like, and then my daughter came, my oldest one came, and she didn't make sense to me. Like, I couldn't talk to her. She was crying all the time. I'm like, yo, why she's crying? Like, what is this? And she was such a little girl, but she had so much energy, and she's such a loving child,
Yeah.
but I was not ready. I would go to work because I was having struggles at work. I'd go to work angry, come home angry. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, something is wrong. I started looking up and researching different forms of PTSD. And I read a book called The Journey to Hope, A Journey to Hope by Langston and Langston. It's a family marriage couple. And the husband is a retired Army chaplain.
Yeah.
As I'm reading their story, I'm reading the wife's testimony in the book, and I'm reading the man's testimony in the book, and I'm reading the wife's description, and I'm like, this is me. This is my story. Like, I don't have the experiences that he has, but all of his responses were mine. All of his responses were mine. And I was like, okay, I went back to counseling, and I got into a recovery group. And I mean, I just started trying to take the bull by the horns in every way that I possibly could, and it wasn't easy. And I'll be honest, it hasn't been easy, because I had 30 plus years of thinking one way and responding to stresses this way, you know, and yet I have these three lovely ladies in my life that love me in this direction. And so, I mean, you know, some people call it recovery. Yeah, that's cool. Like, I'm trying to recover something that I lost. But the reality is that that's not necessarily true, at least not to me. I understand what they're saying. You're recovering. I get it.
Yeah.
I, even as I'm thinking about it now, I tend to think of it more as, if you let the process work, you're being born again. Because the person you are on the other side of this thing is 180 degrees different than the person you were on the front side. I'm still that little boy, but I don't have to let that little boy that got molested, or that saw his mother get beat. I don't have to let the trauma dictate my present scenario. I can take grown Jason into here, grab that little boy by the hand and say, we're going to be all right. It's all right. I can do that. I can treat him with the same love and respect I want somebody to treat my daughters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
hey, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You speak a lot about your therapy and counseling. I know, and earlier you said you weren't, it's hard sometimes for us as men to communicate our feelings, communicate exactly how what we're going through, what we've been through, and how we feel currently. How was that process for you? Did you have to warm up to the counselor? Did you go to 3 or 4 to find the right type of counselor, or when you got there, you were like, here I am. I need help. How was that situation or that process for you?
For me, there's stages. So I can talk about the facts. The facts of the story are one level of communication. To be able to be comfortable to share your facts, that's one thing. To be able to access your emotions about the facts are a little bit different, right? And that takes a little bit more trust, because that's vulnerable. Me telling you my facts is not vulnerable. The only reason why I haven't been graphic on this stage is because I'm trying to not tell other people's story.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are other people that play into this story. My brother, my mom, my dad, family. There's other, but I'm trying to stick to my story. And so I haven't been, I haven't done all that. But I can do that. I did that in seminary when I first got there. I went to see my chaplain. No, I went to go see the counselor there. I told her, sat down with 30 minutes and told her the whole story in detail. The lady got up when I was done and went to the bathroom and cried. Like she went to the bathroom and cried. She was like, this is crazy. She went to the bathroom and cried. And I would and I got stuck in that loop. So now I'm gonna tell whoever's listening, I got stuck in that loop because it's easy to get stuck in the loop of the trauma.
Mm.
And after 6 months of hearing this lady in February, she was like, but Jason, she's like, you're not that little boy anymore. She's like, you're a grown man. It's like you have a woman that you love. She said, and you're getting your master's. She's like, you're not that. And my mind hadn't intellectually even gotten to that stage yet. I was still combating a trauma when the trauma was there and not here.
Mm.
Now let me bring this forward. Re-injury for me was fornication and porn addiction.
Yeah.
So I experienced a trauma because I got introduced too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I participate in things to try and make myself feel better. But then I have to deal with the shame of it because I'm supposed to be who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's a consistent re-injury birthed in that. And it birthed in the original trauma. So there's the anger issue, there's the re-shaming thing. And she's like, but you're a new guy. It's like, you're not that guy.
Mm.
She's like, you're not that 6-year-old boy. So, and that's when it began to dawn on me, oh, so I'm re-traumatizing myself and other people with my behavior.
Wow. Wow.
So I have now given the molester power over me as a grown man. I have given the guy that hurt my mother power over me as a grown man.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why am I doing that? Why? Well, again, here's the word. If I'm trying to recover what I've lost, I'm always reaching back to gain what I could never get.
Wow. Wow.
Instead of me just embracing, this is part of my story, and this is what frames me. Now, how do I aim this in a positive direction?
Yeah.
What healing is needed? Healing and recovery are different.
Mm. Yeah.
Healing and recovery are different. What healing is needed, because the scars will be there, as will the memories. It's not going away. The events happened.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't go back and undo it. I cannot recover that.
Yeah.
But I can heal from it.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
that is what I began to focus on.
Yeah.
And healing is frightening. I'll tell you this, Damaris, healing is frightening because the methods that I used to survive the trauma do not allow me to thrive in a new life.
Jay, man, explain, dive into that for me.
The things that I did when I lacked knowledge, when I was by myself in a world the way I perceived it, the way I experienced it, were my survival techniques. So I had women, I drunk alcohol. Those are my survival techniques. I'm not passing a moral judgment on them. They helped me survive.
Yeah.
It's survival. You live from paycheck to paycheck. You have your community that can make you feel good. You know how to survive. But when you are brought into a new arena, into a new relationship, if you're brought from your proverbial Egypt and wilderness into your Canaan land, you cannot use Egyptian methods in Canaan. In Egypt, you were a slave. In Canaan, you are absolutely free. But if you live like a slave,
yeah,
and that is what I have learned, and I continue to learn. Honestly, I continue to learn what freedom feels like. I continue to learn what it feels like to not be angry. I had to have a conversation with myself earlier this week. I like army movies. I like action movies. I like kung fu movies. I don't like love movies. Like, I'm not gonna sit down and watch a love story. Like, it took a lot for me to watch The Notebook. Like, now I like it, but I wasn't gonna sit down and pick it. Like, it's not what I'm gonna choose.
Yeah.
You know. And I was having a conversation with, I don't know who, maybe it was Edsel. It's funny because the Bible makes a statement, by beholding, you become changed. Now, action movies helped me in that environment of survival.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is that kind of intensity going to help me be a nurturing and caring father, a loving and attentive husband? No. I like video games. I like video games. I shoot them up, you know. Here comes the wizard, send down the, you know, the whole. I like them, and I am wrestling. I have 2 video games on my tablet right now, and I'm wrestling because I'm like, I am not trying to create a future that I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to ask myself, if by beholding I become changed, then what I'm looking at is my future. Is that what I want for my future? Because that's the fact.
Yeah.
The fact is that what you watch informs what you like.
Yeah.
And what you like informs what you do. And what you do informs your habits. And your habits inform your future. They create it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, is this the future that I want for my kids? Is this the future that I want for my wife?
Yeah. Yeah. So
No.
Jay,
And so now I get online every sometimes and I'm looking for stuff like, yeah, go ahead.
No, you finish that, please.
Oh, I'm looking online now for stuff like on pastoral care and other stuff that will help me get to the future that I want.
Yeah.
You know, what other stuff can I write or read or see, or what do I need to be doing that will help me craft the future that I want?
Yeah.
So I can stop living on that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, now, you know, I have accountability partners. You know, I got blocking stuff on my tablet and my cell phone, and you know, this is the only time I use this computer because it belongs to my wife and daughters. I don't use it other than that. I you know, I wake up in the morning, I do my little push-ups and sit-ups. I'm trying to develop my core things that strengthen me.
Yeah. Yeah.
To keep me and point me in the direction for the future that I want.
So Jay, how did you explain this? You know, we're both married, and you know, you want to be transparent, you want to be vulnerable with your wife, especially when you're first starting to date and you're interested. You know, how did you tell your story? Like, you know, did you just say, "Hey, this is me. You know, this is who I am. This is where I've been through," or did you kind of ease her into it, type ordeal, or you know, or she just had one of those type of people that were like my wife is just, you know, I've divorced, remarried, you know, I just came with it all. But my wife has one of those dispositions that made me feel so comfortable that I didn't want to hold anything back. How was your time with telling your story to your wife?
So I told my wife on like our first really real date. And she asked me, she's like, what is your issue? She asked me straight up. And I felt like I was telling her I stole something from her. Like, that's what I felt like. And I was like, I had to tell her the truth. Like, this is what I struggle with. And I'm sorry. And I was a mess at the table. And she was like, holy crap. But so I told her, but because I think God shielded her from understanding the reality at that time. She understood it later, you know, but at that time. But I told her mom too. Her mom knew. I told her mom. I talked to her mom, you know, before her mom died. I talked to her mom. I was like, look, this is where I'm coming from. And her mom still loved me,
Wow.
you know. So, but I told my wife, you know, and there was sometimes I'll be up 100%. There were a few times, twice, she caught some stuff. She caught me looking at some stuff.
Yeah.
I can't lie about that.
Yeah.
You know, can't lie about that. And I felt horrible then, horrible, you know. And I, from those moments, I have tried to take very significant and intentional steps.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Moving forward, like, okay, look, this is my group. These are my people. This is my method, my routine. I'm talking to. You can do it. You want to see my inbox on Facebook? Go right ahead. You want to see my text messages? Go right ahead. I'm not hiding. Here you go. Like here.
Yeah.
So, and it is, like I said, when they could walk out and they don't.
Yeah.
So I mean, at this stage where I'm at right now, my wife gives me the freedom for accountability. So I come home and I tell her how my day went emotionally. If one of my accountability people calls, she lets me talk. If I'm talking to my mentor, then she lets me talk. She's like, nope, talk.
Yeah.
And I try to be very open with her. And it works. It works. And there are levels to intimacy. This kind of intimacy that we're talking about. And I want to go deeper with my wife.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even being here is better for us here in Colorado because the mountains for me are very peaceful. So she'll see me. I go through the week and it's this tension. When we go to the mountains, I'm just like, hey.
Yeah.
And so like there was a couple weeks, for a while there, we were going to the mountain like twice a weekend, like Saturday and Sunday. Like, where are we going? To the mountains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she knows, Jason, if I don't get him to the mountains, it's going to be a weird week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So Jay, you're a girl dad, which to me, when I found out that you were having a girl, that you had a girl, I was like, get him, God, get him, soften him. Yeah, get him. Dude, you are a girl dad. And first, that's an honor and a privilege, but I can only imagine the Jason that I know. And, there's a lot of growth that's taken place, man. The rough, the straightforward, Jason, how has that manifested now that you have a girl? You can't be the Jay that I knew in 2010. You can't be, or I don't think you can be that with your baby girls, man. I can even tell when you talk about them, dude, you get this grin and this smirk and this joy that I've never seen before. I've seen you preach, I've seen you cry, I've seen you tell their testimony, I've seen you write books. I've never seen Jay with baby girl on her lap. This is a different one. How was that transition from you for you? Man, the porn addiction, the everything, the military, the watching your mom get hurt, and all of that. How does that transition into now that you are a girl dad?
So, my firstborn, I did not understand her and her emotions, and dealing with some of the things I was dealing with in Florida, I was very stressed at work. And so I went to work angry, came home angry. And it didn't make sense to me when I come home, then all of a sudden she's crying. And I'm like, yo, why am I dealing with crying at work and I'm dealing with crying at home? Like, what is this about? I didn't understand. I didn't understand. And so what helped is when we moved to the Netherlands. We moved to the Netherlands, she was 4. And every morning I took her to school. And every day I picked her up from school. We would walk or we would ride, but I was the guy that picked her up. I picked her up, took her to school, and that allowed me to reset with my firstborn. Because the first 4 years, it was rough. I was not honestly a stellar dad. I loved her, but honestly, I didn't know how to love her. And that is something that I've had to learn. Even now, she's on the couch sleeping behind me. You know, this chick, man, when she wakes up, she's running. She wakes up, she's running, and she has 1,000 questions. And I'm like, yo, back up off the questions, you know. And she wants to sit here with me and have me watch Barbie shows. And I'm like, yo, I'm watching my show. You watch your show. I'm watching my show. We're together on the couch watching shows. I'm good. I don't need to watch your show. I don't like your show, you know. But I'm learning. I'm learning. It is a learning for me, you know, because I do love her, you know, and I've had some of the serious conversations with mine. I'm the one, you know, I started the conversation about telling her nobody touches her body. Like in public, I take her to the bathroom. You know, I'll stand outside the door, she goes inside. And if then I'll go in with her, you know, whatever. I take her to the bathroom. Yeah. You know, I bathe her, you know, when I'm home, I bathe her, I put them to bed. When this one was little, because my wife was sleeping because she had the girl in the daytime, I took Aubrielle at night. So she slept with me for 4 years, basically, because she was always congested. So I learned what I did in her first 4 years was I did things. I take her to breakfast, you know, we go to Steak and Shake and get pancakes, or Kiki's and get waffles. No, she likes French toast, you know. But I was able to do. I wasn't able to communicate. Being was harder for me. And so I'm getting a little bit better at it now. So it was with my second child that I really learned that I needed to be more gentle, a little bit more patient. And so now that we're here, so when we were in the Netherlands, Aubrielle got thrust into a Dutch-speaking class, not speaking any Dutch. They kept saying children will learn, but it was hard for her for 6 months. It was hard. It was very alone, alienating, you know. And I have to remember that now that we're back here, why she wants to be around the family so much, you know. And so while we were here, after, you know, now that my second child is headed to 3, you know, I took her for a walk, Aubrielle. I said, yo, what's going on? How are you? And she just unloaded. She's like, Dad, I'm tired of Corona. I'm tired of the sickness. I want to meet new people. I want to do new things. I miss my friends and blah, 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 blah. And she just goes off and on. I wish the Chinese people hadn't eaten the bad meat. She believes that we got coronavirus because somebody ate wrong food. I didn't tell her that. And my wife didn't tell her that. I think she got that from the news, fake news. I don't know, you know, but be that as it may. But she is now able to say some of those things. The other day she fell. And, you know, yesterday we were walking, she fell. She tripped over something. She was looking and fell on the rocks, skinned up her hands a little bit, skinned her knee. And, you know, Melissa's like, Jason, pick her up. I was like, yo, she has to walk this off. We got to keep walking. She needs to keep it moving. Just like, Jason, just pick her up. So in my mind, I'm like, this is ridiculous. She's just cry and let's walk. Let's keep it going. But I picked her up and she just cried on my shoulder for a minute. And then she said, I don't want to go. I can't walk. My knee is broken. And I said, I'll take her back to the house. So we're going back to the house and she's crying. Melissa and my daughter go on to the park. I said, now, Aubrielle, we can go to the house. It's fine. It's okay. I said, but just know that if we go to the house, we're not coming back. We're not coming back. We're going to the house. And she's like, okay, I'll go to the park. So she made the choice. Yeah. You know, and I just presented her with the option because I wasn't going to come back. I'm not doing all that. That's too much, you know. It's a lot better now because I am a little bit more sensitive, not as sensitive as I should be, you know. And if I'm being honest, I'm sure I still struggle with the trauma of my youth. And so certain things just kind of like, wait, what? Like if the money gets tight, I get real frustrated because we were broke growing up. I don't like it when the money gets tight. Like, yo, how is it if the money's tight? Like how? And so again, there's a lot more that I can heal on. Truthfully, there's a lot more that I can heal on. And that's the great thing about life and, rebirthing, if you will, becoming a new person. You can heal from this other stuff if you're intentional. And you can set a new pattern for your family so that your children don't have to marry somebody with your brokenness. deliverance. You can, you know, and that's really the best thing, you know, for all the little Christians out there, right? Everybody likes to read the Bible, and you like to act like, you know, God created in 7 days. You took the seventh day off, right? And then on the eighth day, Adam and Eve sinned, so that by the end of the week you're at the flood, and 2 days later you're at Tower of Babel, and and then 2 weeks you know, God did all this stuff in 2 weeks. When the reality is God is not doing dynamic stuff like that all the time. It's just not happening. And so what ends up happening is that the healing that God wants to do is found in relationship with other people. You got an eye problem, you get in a relationship with an eye doctor. You got a cancer problem, you go to an oncologist. You got a tooth problem, you get in a relationship with a dentist. If you've got emotional problems, you need to get in a relationship with somebody that can help you with that. Stop waiting on the mystical and the magical. God's not going to do it. And I can tell you right now, God is not going to liberate you from what you worked yourself into. He's not going to mystically and magically give you an exodus from what you intentionally walked into. You walked in there, you're going to walk out. And he'll walk with you, but you're going to walk in relationship and accountability. I can tell you that.
Jay, so as we wrap up, what advice would you give to someone, you know, who's went through the trauma that you've been through, being molested at a young age? What advice would you give?
So, one, admit it. Be honest about it. And be honest that it affects you. Don't say it doesn't affect me. That's trash. It does affect you. It may not affect you the way it affects me, but it has affected you because it has, right? Go to counseling, honestly, or therapy. Counseling and therapy are a little bit different. They could be the same, but you know, whatever. But get some professional help. Get some support. Learn your emotional language. Learn to communicate your emotions. It's very easy to compartmentalize and communicate intellectually. That's fine, but you're not communicating emotions. It's very easy to act out physically. Know the difference between emotions and feelings. Feelings are are sensory. That's a feeling. You smack me, I feel it. Your emotions are not your feelings. If you smack me, I felt it and I might be angry, but anger is an emotion that I gain from a feeling of being smacked. Know the difference. And the reason why I say know the difference is because trauma is kept and stored in the body. There's a book out there called The Body Keeps Score. This is not me, this is science. Trauma is stored in the body. And sometimes as you go through therapy, as you go through the healing process, you can become aware of when your body is triggered. And you won't even know what your emotions are doing. All of a sudden, your emotions are saying, yo, we need to be doing this, because your emotions are attached to your feelings and your body. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, but I don't want to walk down that road again. It helps to know yourself. Know yourself. Know the cycle of self-defeat and shame that you keep telling yourself. You know, these are the kinds of things. If you're dealing with childhood trauma like I had, get some help. Like seriously, get professional help. Professional help. If you're a Christian, there are Christian counselors out there. And even if you can't find a Christian counselor, all counselors are by law mandated, right, to not work against your faith base.
Yeah.
They cannot tell you, I'm a Buddhist. Well, that's fine. I'm a Christian. Can you counsel me? Yes. Are you going to make me Buddhist? No. Get some professional help. God has a million different ways that he wants to try and heal you. That he wants to heal you and your family and the succeeding generations. You can cut off the epigenetic curse in counseling. You can cut it off. Your children don't have to be born predisposed to what you were born predisposed to. You can cut it off with counseling. You can with support. You can with accountability. You can end it. And God has 1,000 different ways to do it.
Last question. Do you feel as a chaplain that your trauma, your counseling, your therapy has shaped the way that you go about counseling and doing therapy?
Yeah. So my whole life predisposes me to trauma chaplaincy. I can do other kinds of chaplaincy, but I excel in the intensity of the moment. I excel there because that's what I know, right? Um, and yet I have other skills that chaplaincy has taught me as well. So does it inform? Yes. Now, so in the last situation that I was in, when I recognized that the mother was having a traumatic moment because of this of the injury to her daughter, and she's living with like compound trauma and compound grief. Because I could designate that, because I could say she has compound grief from compound trauma, because I could say that, I knew how to approach this lady. I knew how to approach her, and I knew not to be. I knew some things because I'm familiar with it. So has it affected or influenced me? Absolutely. And it will. It can affect you. Yes, it can affect you. It will have effects on you. That's true. The effects will be there. The affects will be there. Those are two different words. One starts with the E, the other one starts with the A. They're two different words. They work together. It can effect you and it can affect you, but it need not infect you. Because if it's an infection, then it's debilitating and it's controlling you. Effects don't need to control you. You smack me, the effect of that is that my face is going to be swollen. The affect of that is that I'm going to be hurt, tearful, or angry, but I don't need to be infected. Because if I'm infected, I have to hit you back.
Wow. Jay, I got love for you, brother. I thank you for taking this time out to be a part of the safe space, for being transparent. It's, sometimes it's just, and I commend you for telling your story without telling others' story. I think that's respectful. Often in our story, we tell other people's story, put everything out. Respect your boundaries within being descriptive in your own personal story. And I believe that God has put you on this earth, Jay, in a time like this where men and women need to hear transparency of your story, the transparency of you being vulnerable at the safe space platform. And so, brother, I thank you, man. I love you. Before we go, I know you have a few. You got a lot of things going on, but you do have a book that you've written, and you're telling me a little bit about the new book that should be coming out. If you can give us a little description of what you got going on.
Yes, so I have written a book. I did it, I don't remember what I published it, but it's called Sexuology, God, Gender, Marriage, and Intimacy. It is an ebook on Amazon. You can look it under J.A. O'Rourke, J period A period O'Rourke, and then you go Sexuology, and that's how you find it. And then I've written my D-Min. My D-Min is for the Seventh-day Adventist Biblical Theology of Prophetic Social Engagement. Long name, because it's a D-Min.
Yeah.
But I hope to turn that into a book at some point in time as I add it and modify it, etc. And the thing I've been working on recently, I have titled The Dark God, Reflections on God and the Black Experience. And so it's just me. I wanted to try and paint something kind of beautiful from the Bible, for people of color, not against anybody else, but for Black and brown peoples, because there is revelation of God in the Bible, not in Christ, yes, but of the deity as being dark. And there's revelation in history of the original creator God being phenotypically dark. And so I wanted to just kind of explore different elements of that, so that we can find, people like me can find something beautiful about us in the divine. Something that's encouraging when we open scripture, that's beautiful. And it's, it's a love, like, wow, that's really powerful. And I got the idea of the dark God from, I believe it's Howard Thurman, wrote a book called Dark Luminosity. And that title really just kind of stuck with me. Dark light, dark lightedness, dark glory. And so I wanted to just kind of explore that. So I'm I'm still putting some final touches on the rough draft, and then I gotta get on Fiverr and have somebody edit it. You know how that goes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. But Jay, man, once again, man, we thank you. I pray that God blesses you and your family, blesses everything that you've touched. Thank you for the sacrifice. Let's bow our heads for a minute prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you. God, you are a good, good Father. God, the reality is that you have created us in your image. And yes, there have been challenges. Yes, there have been issues. Yes, there have been different circumstances that have come up in our life. But the reality is that you never leave. You word to that you never leave us nor forsake us. For that, God, we can stand boldly in front of anyone with our strength. God, today I thank you for the transparency and the vulnerability of Jason to come out and share his story. My God, today I pray that you allow the words of his mouth to only bring you all the honor and the glory as people listen to Jason's testimony all over the world. This is my prayer in the mighty name of Jesus. And all the believers say amen, amen, and amen. Brother, God bless you. And don't ever eat that cookie at the end. I know you were waiting for me to hear up and pray, so you eat that cookie. I love you, man. We'll talk, brother.
Yes, sir.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's Safe Space. If you're interested in a more intimate conversation, please join us for Off the Record this upcoming Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. Please see the slide for details, and remember, all are welcome.